Dr. Sherman Jackson is the King Faisal Chair of Islamic Thought and Culture and Professor of Religion and American Studies and Ethnicity at the University of Southern California. He was formerly the Arthur F. Thurnow Professor of Near Eastern Studies and Visiting Professor of Law and Professor of Afro-American Studies at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Dr. Jackson received his PhD from the University of Pennsylvania and has taught at the University of Texas at Austin, Indiana University, Wayne State University, and the University of Michigan. From 1987 to 89, he served as executive director of the Center of Arabic Study Abroad in Cairo, Egypt. He's the author of several books, mashallah. He's also the co-founder, core scholar, and member of the board of trustees of the American Learning Institute for Muslims, ALIM program. I know a number of students who are here today because they were so excited when they heard Dr. Sherman Jackson was going to be speaking. They were part of the ALIM program, and they were eager to come hear him again. It's an academic institution where scholars, professionals, activists, artists, writers, and community leaders come together to develop strategies for the future of Islam in the modern world. Additionally, Dr. Jackson is a former member of the Fiqh Council of North America, former president of the Sharia Scholars Association of North America, and a past trustee of the North American Islamic Trust. He has contributed to several publications, including the Washington Post, Newsweek blog, On Faith, and the Huffington Post. He's listed by the Religion Newswriters Foundation's Religion Link as among the top 10 experts on Islam in America and was named among the 500 most influential Muslims in the world by the Royal Islamic Strategic Studies Center in Amman, Jordan, and the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim Christian Understanding. It's my honor to introduce Dr. Sherman Jackson.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وقيني شر نفسي وفلت لساني وإن أضل أؤذل بغير حق رب العالمين وبعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. First of all, I want to thank Sister Hina for that very inspiring interview. And I wanted to say that you missed your calling until you got up here and gave that long introduction of me. But thank you for your very kind and gracious words. I also want to offer a very heartfelt and deeply sincere note of gratitude to Sheikh Rami. Not simply for what you are doing and what you have done, but for affording me the opportunity to come and see what you are doing. Because it has been my view for many years that the demographic that you are serving is one of the most critical to the future of Islam in this country. And hopefully the words that I will share with you tonight, I ask Allah to direct my heart, direct my tongue, and to open your minds and to open your hearts so that my words might actually penetrate where they are intended to go. Because if we properly apprehend both the challenge and the opportunity that this particular demographic represents for us, then we not only stand to confer the most profound service upon our community, but rather we will reverse what the modern world has lost due to the inability of Islam and Muslims to live up to their mission. That is what is at stake here. I'm sorry, I have to switch glasses. It happens when you get older. I want to, in my remarks tonight, I want to try to do something that I hope is consistent with what Sheikh Rami had expected of me. I've been around for a while, and I know one thing about the Muslim community in general. We have a hard time really appreciating the gravity of the words that I said just a few minutes ago. We have a hard time appreciating how people who are ex-felons, and some of them even felons, how somebody like Dr. Jackson can stand up here with a straight face and talk about what these people can contribute to the future of Islam in America. For many of us, that is simply unfathomable. That is hyper-romantic. That is not a realistic expectation either of that demographic, of the Muslim community, or of America. But I want to suggest to you the following. Part of the problem we have in that regard is that our tendency is to think about that demographic purely in terms of what we can do for them. And in that regard, it's sort of a welfare project, as it were. Right? I mean, we're going to come, and these poor convicts who come from these horrible backgrounds that we imagine, impoverished, broken families, etc., probably had no alternative but to involve themselves in crime. And so they really got what was coming to them, but it's sad anyway. So we're going to reach down into the more charitable dimensions of ourselves and give a little bit of charity. And maybe, if we give enough, we might even end up feeling good about ourselves. What I would suggest is the following, and when Amin was up here speaking, I was reminded of this. Please don't overlook this fact. One of the strengths that we saw in Brother Amin was the courage that he had to be honest about his contribution to his own situation.
I wish we had more Muslims like that. I wish we had more Muslims who could be honest about their own contribution to their own situation. All right? But even that, I want you to know, you don't have to be a bad person to end up in prison in America. You don't have to be guilty of anything to end up in prison in America. I know that's very, very hard for a lot of you to believe. All right? Trust me on this one. Okay? There are a lot of us who are not in prison because we didn't get caught. Because we didn't get caught. And so the idea that this is some kind of separate breed of human being that ends up in prison, all right, that we can only look upon as these poor, helpless sort of welfare cases, please disabuse yourself of that idea. That could be any one of you. That could be any one of us. All right? And see, it's hard to talk about this because as a Muslim community, we want to identify with the dominant group. And we want to disassociate ourselves from anything that moves in the opposite direction. That's what happens when you are vanquished people. Vanquished people, by the way, this is not me, don't blame me. Ibn Khaldun said it. Al-Maghlub da'iman mula bil ghalib. Vanquished people are in love with the victor. They love him and secretly want to be like him and always want to curry validation from him. And because of that, we tend to move away from our brothers who don't seem to be going in the direction of gaining us the validation from those from whom we most want it. We as a Muslim community have to recognize this is a defect in us. I want you to just think about something for 1 minute. And I'm not going to go over time. But if you were in Arabia, let's say in the year 569, that's like the year before the Prophet was born, or, 620 or 619, or 609, before he became prophet. Who in their right mind would have thought this little ragtag, backwater, underdeveloped group of Arabians would have shook up the world? Who would have thought that? In 1,000 years. No one would have thought that. And were these Harvard grads? Were these Stanford grads? These were Bedouin, almost Arabians. And yet, Allah blessed them with the Prophet and with the ability, therefore, to believe in themselves. And one of the greatest tragedies that has befallen us as a Muslim community in the modern world, that we have been robbed of the ability to believe in ourselves. And I don't mean for me to believe in me personally. Many of us, we got that. And that's part of the problem. That's all we think about. It's me personally. As long as I go to Stanford and I get the PhD, I can do it. And I ain't like y'all. No. We become like Qarun in the Quran. We disassociate from Bani Israel. No, I got mine, that's them. That ain't me, I got mine. All right? We have to overcome this. And we have to be able to look to all the talent and the resources that Allah has placed in this Muslim community. And we have to believe in the ability of Allah to bring great things out of this community, including that demographic. And that's what I want to talk about a bit tonight. We have to move from this obsession with what we can do for our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated or who were formerly incarcerated. And we have to start thinking about what they can do for us. Because once we understand that it is something that they can do for us, then we see the writing of that check not simply as a charitable act, but as a charitable investment. We are investing in our own community. And one of the habits I want us to resist falling into, the pressures on Muslims today, they're so great and so ubiquitous, right? We just want to hurry up and get out of this thing. You follow what I'm saying? Just take the Islamophobia away, something. We just want to hurry up and get to some finish line. We have to resist that. And we have to start learning how to think transgenerationally. You hear what I said? We have to stop thinking that if it's not doable in my lifetime, then it's not worthy of investment. We have to stop thinking like that. Right? As a wise man once said, anything that's worth my committing my life to is probably not achievable in a single lifetime. And that's what we have to begin to realize and understand and recognize when we do that, when we think transgenerationally. The people who started Harvard University were not graduates of Harvard. I'm not joking about that. You think about that? The people who started Harvard did not graduate from Harvard, but they were people who were not disabused in the ability to believe in themselves and in the possibility of what they could do. So, on what level, on what basis do I talk about then what this particular demographic can do for us? And I'm going to talk about who us is in just a minute. Many of you may have heard, maybe not, I'll say it anyway. And I want to, see, this is hard because some of you don't know me. When you know somebody, you know you can read their heart. So even when their words are not what they should be, you know what they're talking about because you can read their heart. Brothers and sisters, then listen to my heart. Okay? Listen to my heart. All right? I have said, and I will say it again, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam would not have been able to succeed not only in carrying out his mission, but laying the foundation for the way of life that is our way of life today, without the support, the help, the comfort, and the aid of his clan of Bani Hashim. This is a fact. We can pretend that the Prophet was this gangster who just showed up on the scene, and that wasn't the way it was. Without Bani Hashim, they may have doused this thing real early on. But his clan came to his defense. And they came to his defense not because they believed in him as prophet. They came to his defense because they recognized him as one of their own. And this is the way human societies work. This hyper-individuality that's become all the mode in America today, that's an anomaly in human history. Most societies have identified with communal identities. And Bani Hashim was like, well, wait a minute now. He is one of us. And we're not sure about all this stuff he's talking about, this revelation and all this other stuff. But we know this. If you harm him, that's an affront to our dignity. Does everybody understand what I'm trying to get at here? Right? To harm one of ours is to harm us. It's to harm our reputation. It's to harm our sense of honor. And we ain't gonna let that happen. You follow what I'm saying here? Now, I have said, and I will say it again. We have in this America today that has been a trial and a tribulation for Muslims, especially since 9/11. And in our communities, we know some of the difficulties that we're dealing with. People falling off like flies. Don't, as we say where I come from Philly, don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm just telling you what it is. All right? We know that. And yet, if we would open our eyes, check our egos, we would be able to see that we have a Bani Hashim right here in America. Who is that Bani Hashim? Let me share something with you. You can go online and look at it. In, I think it was 2000, might have been 2001. Certainly no later than 2002. Tavis Smiley, you know Tavis Smiley? Tavis Smiley had a big old thing called the State of Black America. And this particular year, it was held in a church in Philadelphia. And at one point, they had a big panel. And it was all dignitaries, you know. I mean, like little people like me weren't there. And so, at one point, the moderator asked this whole panel. The moderator said, what can we do to make Muslims feel like they're more a part of us? And almost before he could get that question fully out, the Reverend Al Sharpton jumped in. And he said this. He said, whoa, wait 1 minute. Let's not get it twisted. Because there's not a person in this church who doesn't have a brother, a sister, an uncle, a mother, a father, a nephew, a cousin, a close family friend, somebody in their lives who's not a Muslim. They are already a part of us. And who was he talking about? Who was he talking about? No, I can't hear you. Wait. Why are we so hesitant? See, you know one of the reasons why, because they think Dr. Jackson up here doing a black thing. Wallahi, no. Any more than the Prophet was doing a Bani Hashim thing. Do you understand what I'm talking about? We have to get out of the clouds and come into real society. This is the makeup of American society. And we have already an organic connection, all right, to one of the least alienable communities in America. And notice, when they boycotted the Muslims in Mecca, Bani Hashim came not only to the Prophet's defense, but to what? To the Muslims' defense. Omar is not from Bani Hashim. Omar is from Bani Adi. He was with them. All those Muslims. Uthman is not from Bani Hashim. He's from Bani Abd Shams. He benefited from the protection of Bani Hashim. So we, as a Muslim community, have a vested interest in protecting our relationship and the integrity of that role that Bani Hashim can play for Islam in America. And if we lose our Bani Hashim, some of the people in this room are going to suffer most. I hope you can listen to my heart. This ain't no black thing. Ain't got nothing to do with that. This is what I learned from studying the life of my teacher, Muhammad ibn Abdullah, my model, my prophet. This is what he taught me. This is how real societies work. And unfortunately, today, I have to deliver the news. We are losing that connection to our Bani Hashim. We are losing our connection to that Bani Hashim. Sister Hina mentioned Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz. And that is an apt reminder to make. But one of the things we have to recognize is Malcolm was part of a movement. See, we focus on the individual, all right? And we forget the context in which Malcolm was operating. You follow what I mean by that? There was a context that had already primed the black community to hear this message, all right? And from there, it could go on beyond that community. I can't tell you the number of white Americans that I have encountered who've told me point blank, my entry to Islam was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X. As I said, however, unfortunately, we are losing our connection. In fact, the relationship between the black community and Islam today is weakening. And what you have to understand, this is not in the interest of Islam. And if it's not in the interest of Islam, and I want to say this, it's not in the interest of America. You know why? The virtues that you saw displayed in this brother sitting up here, America needs some of that. We are a divided country today. And we don't have leaders who will model the character and the virtues to help us heal those wounds. In fact, our leadership conducts itself in a way that will deepen those wounds, that will make us less likely to be able to come together. America now is beginning to pay a price for many of the wrongs that have been committed in this country for many, many generations. Some of it is coming home to roost now, as Malcolm would say. But here we are the Muslims. We have a commitment to justice. But some of y'all not gonna like this, but I'm right. And y'all wrong if y'all don't like it. Justice, we don't treat justice as some idol. Justice always has to compete with other considerations in society. What do I mean by that? How can I say that? When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came back into Mecca from Medina after being forced to leave, came back, what would have been his right according to Arabian convention to do? Revenge. Well, that would have been, well, justice. All right? But he understands something. Look, I'm first and foremost, I'm the prophet of God. I'm the messenger of God. My job is to open up enough spiritual and psychological space in the people to get them to be able to receive this message. I can't do that with a strict commitment to justice alone. Here, forgiveness is the virtue. From a position of strength, not weakness. And that's why it was appreciated. Because it was what? From a position of strength, not weakness. You tell me, if you got caught with, what was it? Less than 18 grams. Yeah. If you got caught with less than 18 grams of cocaine, and yeah, you plan to do a little bit of business with it, but it was 18 grams. How can you tell me that warrants triple life? How can you go to prison for 18 grams under a sentence of triple life and come out not wanting to kill the whole world? You hear what I'm talking about? That is the virtue of forgiveness. We learned something about that from our prophet. And when we look at many of the ills that are plaguing our communities in America, if we're looking for the way to bring Islam back to that Bani Hashim community in America, to give that community the sense of ownership that it must have if it is to embrace this thing and take it to the next level, we understand that demographic, the demographic of felons and ex-felons who have seen the power of Islam in their lives. There's a brother sitting in this hallway today, 38 years in the penitentiary. You hear what I said? And can still love. You know what I'm talking about? See, that's the power of Islam. Some of us can't even listen to our wives yell at us for 38 minutes. 38 years. You understand what I'm trying to say? We need these brothers to model what Islam really can do, what Islam really represents, what Islam really is. And part of our problem today, somebody else owns the narrative about Islam. They don't know about these people. All the terrorism, bombing, women this, that, they don't know what Islam has really done in the lives of human beings. It is this demographic, more effectively than any other. Because America is a popular culture, not high culture. If you want to go to the inner cities of America, and that's where the future of Islam in America is, it ain't in the suburbs. If you want to go to those inner cities, these are the people. You better have someone with you to go. That becomes part. Look, Jack, I'm from Philly. And they told me once, why don't you come back and be imam? And I told them, I will not come back until I find my Luca Brazzi. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But this is part of the investment in Islam. Do you understand that? Let me ask you something. Does it have to be you? Do you have to lead Islam in America? Otherwise you don't care about it. Do you? Do you? Or can we get beyond ourselves and say, we want Allah's religion to flourish? We want to see, you got to understand something about converts. I'm a convert to Islam. Almost 40 years. I converted when I was 3. Time? Okay. But you see, what you got to understand is that our families, you understand that? I got brothers who are Christians, cousins who are Christians. We got Jews in our family, people out there. We want to see us as a community model what this Islam can be. As the brother said, he came into Islam not reading some books, listening to some sermons, seeing models of what Islam could be in the flesh. For some demographics, no one can model that better than these brothers and sisters. And we need to understand their value in that regard. Okay? Because many of you can contribute many things, but you can't go to Oakland and do this. You can't go to the south side of Chicago and do this. You can't go to Harlem and do this. You can't go to North Philly and do this. All right? And the fact that you can't should not disabuse you from the recognition of how important this is. Where would we be today without the legacies of the Muhammad Alis, without the legacies of the Malcolm X's? How many of those are we going to produce over the next generations? This is how we have to begin to think. So when you think about supporting Tayba, think about the fact that some of these brothers may become shuyukh, and that's fine. All right? That's fine. But we got to get out of this mentality where the only people we recognize as contributing something important are our shuyukh. They ain't. I studied Islamic studies my whole adult life. They ain't. We ain't. We need architects. We need urban planners. We need comedians. We need fashion designers. We need everything that makes up a civilization. And some of these brothers, if their talent and their expertise is in non-Shari'i issues, then let us support them to be all that they can be. Because all of that becomes a part of Islam as it's supposed to be lived. I have a whole lot more that I wanted to say, but my time has come to an end, and the brother is being very patient and kind with me, and I want to return the favor. I just want to end really by saying, brothers and sisters, please, we are at a very critical point in our history of Islam in America. Okay? If this generation fails, right, what will the next generation have to work with? we have to capitalize on the gains that we have made so far, and we must invest in this community. And invest in this community as a Muslim community. Black, Daisy, white, Arab, it doesn't matter. This is the Muslim community. The Muslim community that is going to go on and make its contribution to what America really should be. So that stuff like what happened, brother, doesn't happen anymore. We want to make our contribution. So think of this not simply as charity, but as an investment. As an investment in your own future. In terms of what your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren will inherit. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.